Okay, so John, you are a great expert of the Eurovision Song Contest. You also wrote the official history of the event, but your partner, Jamarie, is new to the contest. How do you explain it? How have you explained it to me? And how do you explain the Eurovision Song Contest to someone who doesn't know about it?
It's a very hard thing to explain. In fact, I think it almost defies definition. And I'm actually asked this question a lot, and I ask by various news organisations and interviews, and I always say the same thing, that you can come to Eurovision with and get out of it whatever you want to. You can watch it because you think it's terrible, and you won't be disappointed. You can watch it because you love this music, and of course you won't be disappointed. And then there's every single thing in between. And all of those opinions are perfectly legitimate. You can watch something because you don't necessarily like it. You can, of course, watch something because you love it. And Eurovision delivers every single time in every aspect. So I think that's the way. And I just think it's a magical event. It's completely unique. There is nothing else like it, and therefore it should defy description.
Aha!
Because it's too special to put into words. It's a good one.
So when John Kennedy played out the description for me, I heard a couple of words. Unique.
Yes.
I think outrageous was another word.
Yes, it is outrageous, absolutely.
that you used to describe it, but that was really enough for me. Just to be a part of something that is known around the world, and yet not known in my world.
You hadn't heard of it at all?
I had not heard of it at all.
Never.
Yeah, it was almost like you picked me up as a baby in a crib, and you said,
How would you do? I said it does. I really did.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's had recognition in America. I mean, the first ever Eurovision global hit started in America, Volare. That's where it took off. And yet Americans still, understandably, I mean, they're not in it. So why should it have any resonance in their daily lives?
But now there are Americans, part of it at least.
This year. I'm only a token American.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep them.
So how are you preparing for the commentary?
Well, I'm basically just gonna repeat what you sang. No,
I hope not.
No, I've been going through a very regimented physical training. No, wrong again.
Have you been listening to all the songs?
I have, actually. I've watched the videos. It's actually really cool and inspiring, and the cinematography is fantastic in some of these videos. It's really actually been fun. So I've just been kind of riding the wave and checking all the media out.
And how did it all start for you? How did you get involved with San Marino? How did you come to be doing this with me?
I came to do this with you because we host together at Creative Live, which is a worldwide education network, and we're on that platform. And you asked me, you said Eurovision,
just like that.
And then luckily I had a yes in somewhere in there. Yeah, that's how it came to me.
Yeah, I mean, we did not us two together, we did a demo, if you like, commentary from Baku for one of the semi-finals, and we pitched the idea then to San Marino, but of course they weren't in a space at that time to do a fully English commentary. This year now they are, so they came back to me. My original suggestion was to do it with Leah, who is the Italian presenter, and we do a bilingual idea. But actually San Marino ruled that out. They said, no, we don't think that's a very good idea. We will have the Italian commentary as normal for the Italian audience. We want something different for the international audience. And they were very specific that they wanted a female. And I never even had to think about it. I knew straight away who to ask. And I think actually the joy of Jean-Marie's, if you like, naivety about Eurovision is actually what's going to make it work, because you're discovering this for the first time.
Just as a child would. And here we go. And that's a part of how I got to collaborate with RTV,
right,
because they're associated with it too.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And you know, as Jean-Marie says, we work together, not every day, but certainly at least once a week we do some shows together.
Yeah. And
our chemistry has come from that, and we've been working together now for about 8 months or so.
Yeah.
Now, how are we going to approach this? Are we going to do the Terry Wogan irony, or are we going to do the sort of very reverential, very informational? What are you thinking?
Well, you know, what we do best as people is collaborate with others.
Yes.
So there's going to be an extremely interactive element to it. We are in the age of the internet, the age of social media. So John Kennedy and I have decided to infuse that into the commentary. So we'll be accepting tweets and your comments on social media. So there's going to be a really interactive quality to it, and that is what we're doing. And we're going to have fun.
We are, and it's about, it's what you want to bring to the show. You don't need to hear from us who wrote the Lithuanian song, who the composer is for Latvia.
Right.
You can go find that out, and I'm sure if you want to know that, you'll go and find it out. You want to hear a commentary, you want to hear about what's happening in Copenhagen, you want to hear what's going on behind the scenes, and we want to hear from you. We want to see how the show's working for you as an audience.
Absolutely.
What are you thinking about the Latvian song? What are you thinking about Belgium? I'm going to have a bucket handy when Belgium comes on, just in case.
Don't take my bucket.
And that's our goal, and we hopefully it's going to be fun. But so it's not going to be journalistic. Sure, we're not going to be mean or nasty. That's not our goal at all. We're not going to go down that sort of Terry Wogan rabbit hole. But we're going to tell it like it is. You can't pretend something isn't ridiculous when it's ridiculous.
Right.
But you also need to praise when things really work. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's see here.
Now we haven't really interacted with Leo and Gigi.
No, and it's Leah.
Is it? Yeah.
I think it is.
They're doing something very different. Their goal is the domestic audience. They're doing it in Italian for RTV1, and and the footprint. Others in Italy will be watching that too. We've not been charged with that. We've been asked to do something completely different and complementary, so that people have the choice. Which is it they prefer to watch?
Exactly. There's an option A and an option B, and here we are.
Option B is going to be better.
Option B is better.
But we'll see.
And then,
now, for that reason, that's why we're sort of going for the international audience.
Exactly, because the internet, coming and arriving to a website is something that most people will be able to do.
Absolutely.
They'll be able just to join in and participate again in that conversation and build it with us. And let's see here, is it going to be a challenge or not?
Oh, it will be a challenge, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think because we're not appealing to one specific audience.
Right.
Leah and Gigi, they know exactly who they're talking to and how to pitch it. We don't really know until we go live. In fact, we won't really know, perhaps, until after we're off the air, whether we had viewers in Vietnam and the US and, whoever, or South Africa. We'll have to wait and see. So we've got to pitch it slightly differently.
And then hopefully, there will be some multilinguality going on. We have Google Translate for that, right?
Absolutely, that will help. And of course, Leah and Gigi will be appealing to the Italian-speaking audience, and we won't. I mean, obviously, English being such a universal language, we hope to bring in a different audience.
Absolutely, and I look forward to doing that with you,
Now, we both live in the US.
We do live in
the US.
Now,
you are actually from Georgia.
I am from Georgia, the Georgia that's in the southeast part of the United States of America.
Not the country.
Yes. Yes.
Is that going to influence you anyway with Georgian TV?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I already saw, I mean, they basically had what in the deep south would be the equivalent of a banjo and and playing with spoons.
So it's kind of American Georgia.
Oh, it is. We're all one, honestly. I think it's just super interconnected, more so than anyone will admit to.
Now, when I first came to the US, lots of my friends were saying, they knew I was involved with Eurovision, and they wanted to know what it was. They'd heard all the, it's kitsch, it's camp, it's all of that. So I actually started having Eurovision parties. But the reality is, once they actually hear the songs,
they're out
of it. And it's very, and you can usually get to song 3 without pressing fast forwards, because we couldn't watch it live in those days. There was no internet. We used to wait for the DVD.
Right.
And people would. In fact, we only ever got to hear about 3 songs, I think, and they could never understand the winner. It was the last song they'd ever thought of. And they didn't understand the voting, and how could it possibly be that you weren't allowed to vote for each other? Because in America, you'd be allowed to vote for America 300 times.
Actually, I have a ballot box for myself right next to my desk. I put votes in there just for myself daily. Nobody else. No, and I think the American perspective is going to be really valuable, because the broadcast will be streamed at noontime, which is lunchtime in the U.S. Right. And, American during lunch, I mean, we're just looking for stuff to do. There's potential there, for sure. For sure.
Now, you've said you've been listening to some of the songs, you've heard some of the videos. Now, leaving aside San Marino in Italy, because we can't be biased, what's your favourite so far, do you think?
I'm going to actually reserve judgment because
That's
I'm still going through it, and I'm not partial to Georgia, even though I'm from Georgia, the other one.
The American one.
The American one. Yeah, I'm actually reserving judgment. I want to actually get into the country and just start to experience the Eurovision experience.
Absolutely.
And we'll see.
I mean, I think that's a good way to approach it because, I always do. I've seen all the songs. I came out to San Marino and I filmed all the preview videos. I've seen them all. And you can get overload, and then you lose your sense of perspective, and you start thinking that terrible song actually isn't as bad as you thought it was, and that one you really, really liked, you've just got sick to death of it. So I think you're right to come to this completely new.
Yeah, and then to ask you, what do you believe didn't work for San Marino in their previous 4 participations? I mean, why didn't it reach that final despite all the positive commentary?
Yeah, I think their first entry was just a little bit too, if you like, Italian-centric. I think it was Il Modio, I think that was the name of the group, and I think that just didn't go anywhere. Senate, I was hugely disappointed in because that was actually my favourite song of the whole contest that year, and I did believe they had a chance, and that's how I actually got involved with San Marino, supporting their team. Then it kind of, I don't know, the Social Network song, I'm afraid, was not one of my favourites, and that kind of got the result I predicted.
They should have played that this year.
They should have done.
That's what we're doing.
Absolutely. Chris Olide, I was hugely disappointed, but I think there were lots of factors. Going second was a huge disadvantage, and I think that was very unfair. And I also think, and I've been very honest about this, Valentina should have just stood there and sung it. They didn't need all that writhing around on the floor with glowing balls and wind machines and all those girls dancing in the background. That, to me, swamped the song. And I think if it had just been Valentina in the song, it might have, because they came 11th. They only needed a few more points. But I think that's probably part of the reason. And I suppose, at the end of the day, San Marino doesn't have an awful lot of international support. And that can have an influence. Definitely.
Certainly,
There are no expats from San Marino around the world that I'm aware of, really.
All right, so does the perfect Eurovision song exist? And if it does, what are the characteristics of it? And what's your favorite Eurovision Song Contest song ever?
Well, I like the joint winner from '69, Un jour un enfant, from Frida Baccara for France. I think that's a beautiful song because it's classical, it's not pop music at all. So people are often surprised when I pick that one. And I think it's timeless. You could hear it now and think, wow, that's a beautiful song.
So timeless is a characteristic.
Timeless, I think, is important. I think beauty is part of it. I think it's a great shame now we've lost the international language in Eurovision, that virtually every entry is in English, I think.
I noticed that. I could understand what they were saying.
That's a good thing. But it's a shame we've lost, there will be an Italian song this year, but the French song has got lots of English bits in it, so there's no German anymore, there's no Norwegian, there's no Swedish, there's no... Portugal are singing in Portuguese, but even the Spanish song is half in English.
Is that a disadvantage when they're singing
yeah, it can be.
Does it level the playing field,
yes,
do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that's why they do it.
All right.
I suppose Waterloo is the ultimate Eurovision song that people want to emulate. And what is magical about that song? How could you encapsulate that? I don't know. It's the one that rises to the top in the field, and comparison is what it's all about. I think that's one of the reasons why Eurovision music doesn't translate outside of the contest. You hear the winner on the night and you think, yeah, I can see why that won. And then you hear it on the radio the following week in completely different context, and you think, how on earth did that song win? It's a very strange thing.
It's out of context.
Yeah, I mean, it's out of its competitive field, out of the environment.